All right, cyber traders, welcome on back here this Thursday, July 8th, shortly after 2:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Welcome on back, of course, as always, for our afternoon meeting. Let's get a quick official sound check for all of us live inside the cyber group room and for all of us on social media. Great to see you all. Great to see Lori, Michael, Ron, William, Norman, Jean, Kathy, all of our students, all of our trial members alike live inside cyber group. Great to see you all. And like I'd said before, for all of us joining on social media, Facebook Live and YouTube, welcome on back. So, for all of our CTU Gold, Platinum, Diamond students, I know Fausto, alluded to this earlier in the morning. We have actually a Phase 3 course later on today. Fausto is doing a makeup, a rain check type of class from last week. He ran into a huge issue with his broker mid-class. It was like a huge waste of your time and his time alike. So he told you he was going to make it up. And with that, we have the Phase 3 course later on today, live trading with Fausto going into the market close. Long story short, I got to go right from the top here, folks. We got to make this meeting relatively quick. I know that Fausto is prepping up right now. While I kind of guess I'll shed a little light on this CARV trade, top percent gainer. I know Fausto talked about it in his webinar earlier today, just his introductory to day trading webinar that he does every week. But, this was the main, stock that we were talking about there, this and the UONE stock, UONE. So really quickly, just to go over the difference between the two. UONE, I'm sure that we'll get to just as we go from top to bottom. But CARV right now, it's so choppy. The order book is so thinly spread out between all of the, or maybe lack thereof, orders on the bid and ask. The spread's anywhere between 20 cents to 80 cents. Really, just check level 2, level 3, just seeing the difference between the top order on the bid, the lowest order on the ask. For as much as it popped up earlier, it's not going to be a shock to see this dump right back down. Look what happened last year practically at this time. Back in June of last year, this is a weekly chart I'm showing. So, just food for thought, the week in which this broke out and ran up from like 4 upwards to like 25, dumped all the way back down the following week and weeks later and so forth, right? Same to be said on UONE, UONE, ended up making this huge pop roughly around the same time here going into June, ended up popping, then dumping back down. Kind of a shocker today to myself and for any one of us that were there last year at this time when we traded them. They have pretty good correlation. CARV and UONE, like over the year that they have had good correlation. I mean, even outside of this pop that we caught back in June of 2020, we were trading this stock, more off than on, but, going back into the beginning of this year off a short, tinier squeeze, I mean, history repeated itself between UONE here and then CARV. But interestingly enough, today, UONE really isn't making that push. It hasn't, at least since the early morning, whereas CARV has been much stronger to its highs. I know that CARV is breaking all-time highs today. So, there was no historical ceiling to work off of once this really broke above the peak that we had back from last year, around 23, 22 bucks roughly here. So once it popped that, it actually held it as support and then moved up a little bit higher. I don't know. It's just so choppy, the CARV trade, and the UONE trade doesn't really show much signs of life at this point. I guess if CARV's still hanging around by the end of this meeting, maybe I'll jump back to UONE, see if that ends up making some sharper move up. But I'm not going to think that's really going to be the case until I see it. So we'll see what else we got. I got a bunch of funky symbols at the top of the gainers list. What I mean by that are really tickers that we've never really traded before inside our trading room. So, again, GGPW, whatever, or GGPI. Actually, this is the warrants. I'm losing track of my site there. GGPI, the equity, the ticker itself. I guess this popped at the open, new IPO, or not even at the open, rather more so at 1:30 Eastern time. But yeah, I guess a new IPO, unless it's really trading a ton of volume and making a really convincing move, I'm not really, going to put it on our watch list, really. All right, and I'll tell you, there's a bunch of other, symbols that we really don't trade too often, if at all. So, like for example, NVFY, I saw this get called out a couple of times. It doesn't really look like it's doing much. COHN, this is another stock similar to UONE and CARV. I mean, you can see from the pop back. Whoops. See from the pop back last year in June, this was another stock affiliated with CARV and UONE. I think BYFC too. I don't know, it's not a sector, so to say, but all of these companies are affiliated with black business operations, I believe. So back last year, when a lot of the bad stuff around our world was going on, these stocks were actually being pumped up. So that's how you get to know them, at least. This stock we never really traded before last year. Same to be said with CARV and UONE. So they got to prove themselves out to us before we just put them on our watch list, before we start calling it out, constantly. That's why out of all of these, I was like so shocked that UONE didn't make the big pop and move that CARV ended up making, because we actually became pretty familiar with UONE. I was pretty hyped up for it. We did all right on it, gotta say, but man, the volume died off pretty quick on this one, at least today. I'll get a load of this. Space pushing up really nicely. Actually, to my surprise, I didn't really follow this stock at all today. It's a stock that we do follow quite frequently, if not every day, then at least week to week. I mean, there's some of us live inside Cyber Group here that watch it every day. And if you were watching this right out the gate as the market opened up, then you were a big winner on this stock. Let's just take a look. I don't know what the news is on this stock, if any. I got no news on this stock. No headline. I see maybe unusual options activity, option alert from Benzinga Pro, but that's it. I don't know. Don't really need news to trade this stock, at least right now for the afternoon, with it near at the highs right now. Definitely going to put it on our watch list. Obviously more expensive. So for any one of us that doesn't really trade a stock as expensive as space, just honestly, don't let it be a distraction to you. That's all. And if you want to try and trade this stock, it's more of a level 4 to 5 stock, I'd say. Probably lean more towards 4, given it's still relatively liquid. But, it's just for me to say, I would trade this on a much smaller share size either way. I'm speaking for myself here. I'd probably trade this 500 shares max. If I do trade this stock, I might take a position 250 shares and then maybe average down if it ends up dropping on me, and then to go to 500. So, that's just a quick way of like managing your trade based on position size. We talk all about that throughout the phase 2 curriculum and phase 3. I don't know if Fausto himself would be talking about that for this afternoon's class, but between phases 2 and 3 in our stock trading course, we tend to go over risk management, position sizing, and all of that. All right, LMFA. Need to talk about risk management on this one. Look at this thing. Disaster, right? I mean, even more now. I was actually more so talking about the run up. It was as choppy as you could ever imagine a stock to be. And actually, for all these times where it actually was popping up, dropping, this got halted probably about 8 times throughout this whole afternoon. It's a mess. Don't need to trade a stock like this. We're going to pass on this for right now. Come on, buddy. There we go. My UTME trade. It's the only stock I am actively in. I hope I don't look like a jerk coming up and to have this shake back down quite violently on me. I am currently in, what's my price? In right at 50. Cool. I ended up averaging into the trade a couple of times, so I knew I got filled on my last 250 share position that I have here. This is not 2,000 shares. But nonetheless, though, I'm going to keep track of this stock as I go throughout the meeting here. I'm not really a big fan of the stock based on the liquidity. I was a fan of the stock based on the daily chart. Let me show that to you. It's a weekly chart. Hopefully this doesn't dump on me as I do this meeting. But nonetheless, this stock was an IPO back in April of last year. Started off at like 10 bucks, 11 bucks. Popped all the way up 2 days later, up to a high of like 107. And then, as you can see, the rest speaks for itself. So given the range on the daily chart, I was pretty hopeful to see this stock really begin to, make a nice pump up today. And I did all right on it earlier. I had a small little position for about 65 cents. By small, I mean, it was like 250 shares. So, the trade worked out well, but I wish I had more. So, for right now, I'm going to keep in this position that I'm actually in right now, set my stop. But we'll see where else or what else we got here going into this meeting. I'm not really too convinced of like putting this on our list just because I'm in it. If this ends up snapping down any lower here, I'm likely to get stopped out. And if it ends up snapping lower and it stops me out, pretty good chance it's going to make for a huge drop off after. All right. The ATHE trade, not a whole lot really happening here. It looks like it did pop up just before, but dumped back down. And I guess maybe about 20 minutes ago, it looked interesting with it much closer to the highs, but I think for the meantime, we'll pass. BYFC, we kind of talked about this before here too. Not a whole lot going on right now. UONE, unfortunately, pulled back, dumped back down a little bit there. All right, DBGI. This was a decent trade from earlier today. It was actually one that popped practically during Fausto's morning meeting. If you heard a cell phone go off there just before, you gotta love telemarketers, huh? I had a nice spam call on my cell phone there. My apologies, but DBGI ended up making a nice pop in pre-market. It looks like a bust. It looks like it was a really bad trade after 9:30. It was a really great trade after 9:30. It's just a matter of following the right levels. So we were anticipating on this stock pulling back and dropping, of course. Well, it ended up bottoming out roughly around $6.30, 6.25. So that ended up making for a pretty similar type of bounce play compared to what we had. I think it was yesterday on the XCLA stock. I just got stopped out on my UTME trade. All right, so either way, DBGI was a nice pop from pre-market. Ended up acting as a great trade after the open in terms of the bounce, but for the meantime, not a whole lot really going on for this afternoon. All right, XCLA. Man, this thing is certainly proving itself to be a great stock for us to trade. We only started following this just about a week or two ago. So, what I said on CARV and UONE, and I mean, hell, that UTME trade I just, took a loss on. This, I said the same thing on. It had to prove itself to us. The thing about this trade that I like compared to the others, I feel that we all can kind of see it here. Not just that it's cheap, but really good liquidity, great spread, filled an order book, big 124,000 share order on the bid currently at 345. It was building a bit of a head and shoulders earlier throughout the afternoon or going into the afternoon, and I would expect for it to drop off from that pattern, but ended up building a nice bottom and pushed back up. So you know what? I'll put this back on our list in hopes of this making yet another run for us, just to see the stock go from 2 to 390 in just over 3 days. I know we've seen even bigger moves, in terms of a stock's, intraday run, like CARV up 219%. But you can't keep expecting the same type of pop, the same succession day over day over day. So I'm going to put it on our list because, I mean, it's still pretty strong right now. But if it ends up making a lower high, ends up pulling back below 350, I would move on if that's going to be the case. If not, then great. We'll see if this can run up towards 4, right? All right, so let's see what else we got. Express. I know AMC took a hit today. Express, another Reddit stock, so to say. This one ended up making a nice pop, pushed up nicely from 5 up towards just about 6, 592. The HOD. I don't know. Right now, not a whole lot going on. I guess you could say it's still at support, but topped off the highs, came back down. I would expect this to drop off more than anything. And with that, I think we hop over to the loser's side here. I don't really see much else on the gainers end. The only symbol I want to just look at, I know it's not them, but pretty funny. You got a ticker named IRS. Might be after us here. I don't know what this company is or ticker. I can't even pronounce it, but IRS, interesting. But yeah, we'll hop over to the losers list here. See what we got. CPOP, NEGG, the Newegg trade from yesterday, leading the losers side. Both are shortable. Or both are not shortable, rather. I should move on from them. QFIN, nice drop at least after the market opened up. Bottomed out roughly around 23.80. Pushed up really well, though. And for the meantime, I mean, it's down enough to still hope for continuation on this dead cat bounce. It's pushing up pretty nicely here. Decent spread. Not a cheap stock, but that's fine by my book. Pushing up nicely up towards 26. I would assume resistance from the chart also. I mean, it's right there. It's tough to tell based on just one price level, but 25.75 seems to have been a bit of a top going into the mid to late morning. So it's practically there now. Just be careful of a shake here in case it's a false break, but otherwise, maybe on the next leg up, perhaps it can get closer to 26. All right, let's see what else we got. This is a relatively new ticker IPO, or at least, yeah, relatively new. Back from, not too new, back from November. So still, I guess kind of new IPO, kind of not, but breaking all-time lows. It is shortable, believe it or not, on TradeStation at least. I don't know. I mean, it's tradable for sure. Good spread, good liquidity, down big and at all-time lows. Just so choppy across the day. So I'm almost more interested in seeing what this stock will do for tomorrow morning. I'll check it out early in pre-market. But otherwise, I don't know. I'll pass for today. LULX. We got an LI stock that we do trade a lot. All right, so I know a bunch of tech stocks got beat up today, with the Facebook, Google, Twitter lawsuit. I know, I mean, the market as a whole took a dump off going into the morning today. So with that, we saw a bit of a squeeze on the S&P, the SPY ETF here, going into the late morning, roughly after 11 a.m. Eastern time. Did that pop? But, hey, PLTR, this was down big leading into the open. I had a good eye on this going into the market open today and ended up making a nice pop from 22 up towards 23.20. Check out a trade like NEO that was on the watch list yesterday afternoon and, dropped off more this morning. Ended up making a nice push back up to 46. So again, these are all stocks that, are tradable. They're good side list stocks. Wanted to check them out here just at the end. We got Fausto's phase 3 class coming up, folks. So for all of us on social media, at least, that were interested in crypto and Bitcoin, Bitcoin dumped off a little bit going into the pre-market with the major indices. Collectively, there wasn't really anything out on Bitcoin. So trust me, bear with me, but I will show the Bitcoin chart going into tomorrow, as I always do, heading into the weekend, at least from there. But still in that same range for the most part is Bitcoin. We saw Riot and Mara and Cannon drop off, in pre-market. But again, not really a whole lot to really talk about on these trades. Very flat in a channel. All right, from Patrick, he's asking or saying RSLS seems decent, but the spread is a bit big. Yeah, I guess I either skipped over this or I didn't look at it, and maybe it popped up as I was going from top to bottom. It's at the highs. Don't get me wrong. It's cheap. It couldn't. I'll put it on our list. I'm hopeful that it could pop. If it does not, it won't surprise me. Kind of reminds me of the LMFA trade in terms of the shakiness. This one, I think, even has less liquidity on the book compared to the RSLS, but just be careful on it. I'll put it on our list for right now. It's making more of an afternoon move, which I like. All right, for all of us in social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, let me know if there's anything else up, down, left, right, more than, like 5% that you would want me to check out. If there's anything that I missed, anything popping or dropping as we speak. I'm checking out my Benzinga Pro right now. I got two tickers I'm going to look at. Doesn't mean that they're going to be good, but this IPW making a bit of a pop right now from 720 up to 860 and pulled back. What I like about this, I guess, is that it's a new IPO, right? Back from May or maybe April, May. But what's the volume on this thing? It's like so light. Folks, there's no way. I don't want to put the stock on our list right now. The reason I say that, I mean, it's up. It could run higher, but this stock trades such light volume on a day-to-day basis. It's crazy. Like maybe 100,000 shares a day, if that. So I don't know. I'm not going to put this on our main list yet. Reminded me of the ORPH trade from this afternoon where it popped up suddenly off of like retail volume, like really thin buying, and look what happened, right? All right, welcome back, Mitch with MOXC moving up nicely. A bit of a wacky spread. I think that you listen to me too much, Mitch. No, but with that in mind, it's a great pick, great call. More of a level 5 stock, kind of similar to Space, even more volatile than Space, I'd say. But yeah, great call. And put this on our watch list, approaching the highs back from the end of June. I don't know if that's, well, I can tell you if that's all-time highs. Nope. Going back, I thought in the back of my head, I'm like, is this the stock? And it is the stock where looking at the daily chart, for as much as this stock ran up on us over the last week or two, this looks like, oh, this has to be all-time highs, right? Oh, it's a 1-minute chart. Whoops. This has to be all-time highs, right? Looking at this. It's not exactly all-time highs, unfortunately. Stock ended up getting crushed going back into like 2015, 2016, and so forth. It was as high as like $100+ but looks like historical resistance could be around like $61, maybe 65. But for as much as it dropped off even from there, that's where you could see a stock make a pretty sharp explosion, sharp pop. I mean, we saw the same thing happen on the UTME trade we just talked about, right? This thing's starting to push back up on me. All right. You know what? We'll kind of slip this on our watch list at the end. It's a very ugly chart, very thin order book, but for the same reason in terms of MOXC, this one's not at the highs popping yet, but perhaps if we happen to see support fill in more over 1165, 1167 in particular, pretty much where it's at now, I think there's a good chance we'd be able to see it run. Last one here from Norman, ARVL. Not really trading a whole lot of volume per minute. So it looks good in terms of the chart pattern. It's up, more than 5%. So I appreciate the call. Right now, it's not trading a whole lot of volume per minute. I feel like it's going to be a bit of a dud. If I'm wrong with that, I'm happy to have egg on my face. All right, folks, so I think that we're going to call it for right now. We have a decent list, and if there's anything else, we'll look to call it out live inside our trading room, right? So, hey, if it's not the space trade, if it's not the XCLA trade trying to push back up, if it's not the UTME trade, that crazy thing that I, just took a small loss on, but maybe I'll get back in on that. If it's not any of those, perhaps it'll be something else from our scanners, from our trading room as we work together and call it out heading into this final hour. All right, for most of us, actually, inside the trading room, I know that Rich is going to post the link for class coming up. Oh, he actually did just in the last minute. Appreciate that, Rich. Make sure to click on that link, folks, for all of us inside the trading room just to get access to Fausto's Phase 3 stock course. You have to have access to it. So for any of our gold, platinum, and diamond CTU students, just make sure that you click on that link before Fausto starts. For all of us on social media, Facebook Live, YouTube, you got a link on the banner below that you see on the bottom of the screen. Just go right there to get started on a small trial inside our live trading room. Otherwise, just make sure to like, subscribe, notify right on our YouTube channel, that being youtube.com/cybertradingu. All right, folks, for all of us live inside the trading room right now, I'm going to take a quick break, jump back on the mic myself right at 3:30, taking us going into the market close. I'll talk to you then.